If adventure has a name, someone please give us a new game. Back in 2021, there was a brand new game announcement, but that release seems to be years away. So with a brand new Indiana Jones film release, I dug into the old backlog to see what I didn't have finished. Welcome to completion number 28 of the Potato Backlog Project. I complete games from my 431 game backlog, allowing myself $5 per completion to go towards the purchase of new and used video games. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video for the you must choose, but you must choose wisely Tater Raider. And let's talk about Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. Released in 2003 for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and Windows, The Emperor's Tomb is a standalone Indiana Jones adventure. None of the old games are considered canon as far as I know, but the story of this game does lead nicely into the Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom was the second film released, but actually takes place before Raiders of the Lost Ark, so this game story-wise happens before all three of the original movies, if you care about that sort of thing. The biggest strength of this game is the story itself. It feels like a fun Indiana Jones story. Indy ends up tasked to find the heart of the dragon, a black pearl buried with the first emperor of China. In true Indy fashion, it's a race against time and evil to find it first, because if it falls into the wrong hands, it's lights out for humanity and evil will rule the world. You know, that old chestnut. It hits almost every Indy story beat to a T, including some supernatural elements near the end. I do think they needed to add a few more cutscenes here to flesh out and set up some of the situations a little bit better. This is a bit of a nitpick though. I like that it seemed they wanted the action of your play within the game itself to push the narrative. This helps you feel more involved and helps you feel like you are Indiana Jones running around in this world, which is the whole point of a video game. I just think it was a little light on the balance, because the cutscenes they did have were pretty good and effective in the right ways. Gameplay itself is just a giant roller coaster of things. It's funny to me that games like Tomb Raider that came before were inspired by adventures like Indiana Jones, so you then have an indie game that leans on and borrows a lot of the ideas and gameplay designs from that franchise, which is then brought to a whole other level a few years later with the Uncharted series. With the bones of what is here in this game, I think the ultimate goal would have been getting to something as clean and polished as the Uncharted series ended up being. What we have here is not super polished. The camera is a major problem. It is frustrating and janky at important times. The game does allow you full control of its movement, but in the middle of fights and making tough jumps, it can jank out and do weird things, causing frustration and failure. The fighting system itself is also somewhat of a joke. The game balance of physical fighting and gunplay is all over the place. Sometimes 3 punches takes out a bad guy. Other times it's 17 bullets and 3 punches. Nothing ever really made sense here for me. There is an option to shoot your guns in first person, but you can only aim, not move. So I ended up just running around free shooting and punching most of the time, as I found it to be the most effective. With the unpolished state of the game, lots of weird things happened as well. Things didn't always work as intended, and the overall experience of fighting anyone became more annoying than anything. I flick a switch, bad guys came. I open a door, bad guys came. I find an item, bad guys came. I found myself just wanting to have puzzles to solve and places to explore, and not having to fight so many bad guys, which was unfortunate for me since there was a definite focus on having a lot of action and fighting in this game. They did do a couple good things here though. There are improvised weapon options at times, including chairs, bottles, chunks of wood, and bad guys themselves dropping their weapons, which you could then pick up. You could use the whip to disarm people, and enemies would look for opportunities to pick up their weapons again after they had dropped them. Enemies could also climb up to areas you were at, and they could grab onto ledges if you had tried to knock them off. There was a lot more advanced things happening there than I kind of expected there would be. But again, it just feels like it needed more time to tighten it all up. Movement around levels was also a mixed bag. It was in better shape than the combat though. Indy's run speed was great, and they give you a nice roll option, which comes into play while navigating the dangers of the world. The swimming itself was serviceable, and the rope climbing was okay. The ledge shimmy animation though, look at this animation. Not only is it super slow, it is the funniest looking shimmy I've seen in a game in a long time. Who okayed this for final release? Jumping was pretty good for the most part. You were able to get pretty close to the edges and hit your buttons with confidence that they would register properly. There were some misses and some random times when Indy wouldn't grab ledges, but overall everything worked well enough that I was able to get through the game. The coolest thing with movement in the game was swinging with the whip though. It wasn't amazing or anything, but when that whip cracks, that sound effect, that felt like magic and would bring a smile to my face every time. Little things like that mixed with some good use of music and sound cues throughout helped it really feel like you were in an Indiana Jones adventure. The developers tried to work in some variety with the chase scenes and a sequence where you're on a gondola shooting down airplanes. These were cool additions and helped break things up in a good way. The big miss with them was that they went on for far too long, like ridiculously long. You shoot the same car and motorbike about 50 times while this poor little guy is running you in a rickshaw. The whole time Indy's yelling at him to go fast faster. In the other sequence, you shoot about 50 planes down before the sequence ends. I just don't think the German army would have sent 50 planes after one man. They might have tried something different after the first 10 or 15 went down, but then again, maybe not. The unfortunate part is that the game gives you a neat kind of fun new sequence, but then absolutely destroys it by letting it play out for way too long. There were no mid-level checkpoints or saves within the game, so death in the middle of a sequence meant starting all over again. A little bit old school and frustrating at times, as the game could be quite challenging. Halfway points or some type of checkpoint system would have helped the larger levels feel less daunting. If you end up repeating things too many times, it takes away from the magic and excitement of what's happening and pulls you out of the game. For a 20-year-old game, this experience was much better than I thought it was going to be, but in the end, a lot of it feels unrealized, unpolished. There are great ideas and moments of brilliance and great fun, but the unpolished state the game was left in was really disappointing. Remember that this was from a time when day one patches to fix bugs just wasn't a thing. If this were released today in this state, we would have gotten the standard apology from the developers and 5 patches in a week to get it on par with the franchise it represents. 1 happy potato face out of 5. The game does have its moments, but it just didn't age well, and it wouldn't be worth your time to go and play this in 2023 or beyond. If you are curious about the story, which wasn't too bad for an Indiana Jones story, then check it out on YouTube and save yourself some time and money. I love Indiana Jones. I grew up watching the films. I was just a kid when the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles came out, and I remain hopeful that one day we'll get that definitive, timeless classic video game that we deserve, worthy of such a great character and a great franchise. And with that, the Backlog project rolls on. Thank you so much for watching. Be kind to yourselves and others that deserve it. We're on to the next one. Pick Harrison Ford's nose. Look at that. Adventure. That was an adventure. No. It's a race against time and evil to find it first. Find it. Find it. Find the Black Pearl. Wait, Black Pearl? And the Emperor evil. And the Black Pearl evil. And Jack Sparrow had a Black Pearl and they were all evil. So let's go.